Ladies and gentlemen, now we got about 48 hours until Black Clover goes live in Korea and Japan, and hopefully Global's only going to be like a few weeks, a month behind it, and not like a massive gap of time. However, we're going to be like jumping straight into the Japanese and Korean versions to play the game before Global, kind of figure out the meta, figure out who's best. Because I played the beta last November, they had like a closed invitational one, and I absolutely grinded it for about 60, 70 hours. We got rank 1 PvP, maxed out a lot of units, got them to level 100. We LR'd them. We built out gear sets. I think like the talents and stuff. There are a few things that were bugged on the beta. So again, I just want to drop a huge disclaimer that a lot of my opinion is based on playing the first beta for about like 60 to 70 hours, getting rank 1 in PvP. But that could have changed substantially what we're dealing with in that build versus the live version of the game. So this is kind of like a rough framework of like what I'm thinking and what units I'm going to be looking at, like as soon as I get my hands on the Korean and Japanese version, to test out if these units fundamentally are still really broken with what they do, or if they've kind of balanced or changed them in different ways. So again, there's a lot of nuance to this, but just a huge initial disclaimer that this is a very rough guide based on the very first beta. And also, if you look to the bottom of this tier list as well, there's a load of unknown characters, mainly like the Rs or the SRs, that I really didn't get the opportunity or have the resources to actually level up. Again, we only had 7 days to play this thing, so it was very intensive, kind of getting all the top tier characters up first and kind of testing them out. And I didn't really see or remember encountering many of these characters in like top tier PvP, because there are a few that kind of took me by surprise, and a few really interesting comps on there. But yeah, overall, let's start like with some of the best, man. So William Vengeance is crazy good. What makes him so good, and he is probably the most powerful ability in the game. And if you get him like straight out the banner, you won't think initially, because he's not like a big damage unit. You're not going to press the button and everything's going to die. But this second ability is like absolutely ridiculous, man. So it transforms the enemy target into a tree for 1 turn, and also fully exhausts all of their stamina. So rolls back their entire turn to nothing, and turns them into a tree. But the stamina exhaustion also works on bosses as well. So you can completely negate a whole boss's turn. And bearing in mind, when you're building a team in Black Clover, it's a team of 4 characters. So yeah, you just basically get a free turn, and there's like this really annoying like golem boss, and his second phase, if he reaches his ultimate, man, you are getting absolutely giga clapped. But with Vengeance and Speed Tombs, you can actually stall that. So yeah, he's just so good if you are having trouble with bosses, and also in PvP, if again there is a very annoying unit, which there are plenty of them, he can again just take them out for 2 turns, you know, fully stuns them, rolls back their turn to nothing, and then you can also like pile on and combo with certain other characters that reduce like turn generation, or stamina generation, I believe it is referred to in Black Clover. So yeah, this ability is just absolutely nuts there. And yeah, the special one is okay, a little bit of a defense increase to all friendly targets. Really not the best card, if I'm honest. And then his ultimate does have a chance to apply immortality to a friendly target for 1 turn. And this can be useful. It's really not the best ultimate. Really, all of the value from Vengeance just comes from this tree ability. Because the more difficult content I played and the higher tier PvP matchups I played, again, it's all about just, you know, denying the opponent that's about to kind of use their ultimate or use a really annoying ability that's going to screw you over. It's just about completely shutting them down and taking that away from them. Or on like some of the most stressful bosses in the game, just completely deleting their turns. So Vengeance, like, he is just like the support MVP, at least in my opinion, just solely for that ability. Found a lot of value in that personally. The blue Uno hits like a train, man. Lots of damage. This guy does really good damage, and also on a second ability has a good chance to stun the opponents as well, and I think synergizes with some of the debuffs of other characters. I didn't play this guy personally, but I fought him a lot on other teams in kind of the top like 10, 25 in arena. So yeah, he was really good, very hard hitting champion, and seemed to be consistently kind of outputting more than the green version of Uno, at least on the beta. So yeah, I could never get my green Uno kind of doing some of the stuff that I saw from like opposing teams, blue Unos there. But I was mainly going with like my Jack setup, man, and Jack is really really good as well. But the green version of Mimosa is absolutely fantastic. I would say by far, like Mimosa is both the first best healer and the second best healer as well. And I think everybody should be getting a free version of the red one, but the red version is just like an SR. It's an uncommon unit, so it's really really easy to get a copy of that. But I'll just talk about both the mimosas first. So the green one has a lot of like heal over time abilities, but the big value thing from this one is the ultimate. So it applies recovery to a friendly target, restoring 20% of their maximum health, and then restores an additional 25% if the target's health is lower than 40%. I believe this hits like everybody on the team, and it also removes all debuffs from friendly targets as well. And the description is a little bit bugged here, but it also, I believe, applied debuff immunity. So debuff immunity doesn't give you immunity to stun or freeze, but it does give you immunity to like attack reduction and all the other like crazy debuffs that existed in the first build. So Mimosa, this one was really, really good, very solid healing. Also using a special too, you also apply a heal over time to your allies as well. So basically, like everything you use on this Mimosa was healing, and yeah, she was just like really annoying to burst through as well. So it's a bit of a pain, but she's a fantastic healer, and the fact as well that she removes debuffs, I think is kind of the thing that set her ahead of the other Mimosa, because there are a lot of characters again with very very annoying debuffs, especially Jack as well, and we'll talk about his stacking bleeds in a moment. But yeah, if we go to this Mimosa, so yeah, she basically just has what was it, the level 1 ability, just kind of like shoots a flower and applies like a small heal over 2 turns. And then you got the level 2, which is kind of like a bit of damage, but also like a burst heal on allies as well. And then the ultimate is like an AoE heal, which is really nice. But also, if your health is restored to 100%, and again, this heals everybody, it also adds a barrier on top of that. So yeah, she was just really, really good. Again, if you're struggling in PvE content for whatever reason, this is probably going to be one of your best healing options. I think she may work a little bit better for healing in the average PvE scenario in comparison to the green one, because I think she's got like slightly more throughput. And again, if you can kind of time this the shield well, while you're also like stam draining and getting topped up and then putting that shield on, this again, these two can work very very nicely to just like control and shut enemies down. But then next up we got Lotus. Dude, Lotus is absolutely cracked. So it's so weird that this guy from what is it, like season 1 of Black Clover, is ridiculously OP. He was arguably the best character overall in the first beta build. And it felt so wrong. But he was really fun to play because he was just so goddamn overpowered. So you threw out his special 1 ability. His special 1 ability hits everybody. It's every single target, and it has a 40% chance to apply an attack reduction, a magic attack reduction, and a crit reduction. So on average, you would get like 1 or 2 of these per target. And these debuffs are insane, man. So the attack reduction is like reduces attack by 50%, reduces magic attack by 50%, reduces crit chance by 30%. Like these are just absolutely absurd values. So you could not only like deal a huge amount of damage with him because he's hitting everybody, and cleave spells are just like amazing in the first beta, but also you're applying like these mega debuffs, which are reducing the damage output so significantly of your opponents. And then also on top of that, his ultimate ability deals big damage and then drains the stamina, so that the turn meter of all of your opponents to 0. So you would use like a speed tome in PvP, which speeds up characters, and he actually has really, really high base speed as well. So that this character would go first or maybe second after a Vengeance. Because Vengeance again can get into the match and immediately control stuff because he's a very fast character. So this one, you could just go into PvP matches, just insta like drain everybody's stamina, and then like let your team go to town and just have an absolutely great time. And by the time they would even get the opportunity to attack, and again in PvP you are fighting AI, you could have maybe several turns with all the control that you have, and just, apply all of these debuffs, get lots of attack reduction, because again, it does last for 2 turns on the opponent as well. So you got fast unit, you're checking this out pretty much every time you're not using the ultimate, and yeah, it is ridiculous. So this guy was absolutely cracked. I do kind of hope he gets a little bit of a nerf for the global launch, because again, he was too good, man. He was way too good. So next up, we need to talk about Heath, and Heath is again one of the characters really easy to get but mega effective, dude. He's just so crazy. So the ultimate has a guaranteed freeze on any targets that have more than 75% stamina. So again, this is kind of like another PvP trick. At the start, like everybody's very close to max stamina, and then the starting order is determined by speed. So if you put a speed tomb on him, or kind of just use a vengeance to quickly like tree the person that's going to be a problem and then freeze everybody, then yeah, this is crazy. But again, even if they don't have more than 75% stamina, it's still an AoE freeze on all 4 of them, 75% chance. So good chance it's going to freeze, at least 2 or 3 of them. And then his like other 2 abilities, this one has a pretty good chance, 75% chance to freeze as well. And it also speeds him up even more, so you can get more turns, get to that ult. And then you've got a 40% chance to freeze on Ice Shard as well. So yeah, this guy is just like everything, has a pretty good chance to freeze, maybe guaranteed freeze as well if, opponents do have a high turn gauge or stamina there. So yeah, Heath is just absolutely broken. You can just see so much stuff. Again, if it can be frozen, you're going to get so much value out of this guy in a lot of different matches. And then next up, we got Mars. So what made Mars really good was his like basic attack and also his like linked attack as well. So you can pair him with maybe somebody like Vengeance, that you only really want to use that like skill 2 out of, and then use like Vengeance's combined attack power to siphon into Mars to get the combined attack. And that'll make sense when you play the game and you kind of pair ones up. But combining it with like a unit where you don't want to like use their basic attack every turn, then yeah, he's just absolutely crazy. So what he does on the combined attack is he has a 50% chance to taunt an enemy target for 1 turn, and then stuns enemies if they cannot be taunted. So pretty much acts, to the best of my memory, as like a guaranteed tank. Either the opponents are going to be forced to attack Mars, or if they resist the taunt, then they get stunned. So yeah, this one just absolutely cracked. Also, the visual on this looks amazing as well. So yeah, that was really nice. And then also on his skill 1, and I think there are like materials you can get to upgrade the chance on this, but it has a 65% chance, so almost a 2 out of 3 to just stun the enemy for 1 turn. And again, you can use that like every single turn. So yeah, that's crazy. And he also has like a buff strip on the second ability as well, Mineral Assault. And then finally his ultimate is an AoE ultimate as well, and applies a debuff to enemy targets, increasing the duration of all debuffs by 2 turns, and also gains a barrier equal to 30% of damage done for 2 turns. This unit overall, man, the more I played, like the more this guy was just MVP again. In my core team here, I did make some adjustments actually, and I was playing around with like this Mimosa slot, either using like Heath in that slot or Jack, or Mimosa. I kind of ended up with like Jack in that spot sometimes and like Heath in that spot, but it really depended how people are kind of tweaking their teams. But yeah, Jack is awesome, man. He's really awesome. Again, like Mars, he's kind of a character you want to pair with somebody that is maybe not needed to use their base ability every turn, because he has a really good combined attack where he applies 2 bleed debuffs. So again, he doesn't even need to use this. The person standing next to him can, and then he applies 2 bleed debuffs for 2 turns if the enemy target has no bleed. And then also using Mars, you could extend this in the beta as well. And then he's got like bleeds on all his other skills. He also has like a maximum health reduction as well if you want to get somebody down and make them a little bit more vulnerable to, let's say, just a bit of burst damage if you're looking to get through a really annoying unit that's maybe being healed a lot. And then also his ultimate skill as well applies 20% crit damage increase, and then attacks the enemy target for every active bleed debuff they have. And again, his second ability also applies more bleeds as well. So yeah, I think that one actually applied like 3 bleeds. I think there's like 3 slashes. But the really cool thing about Jack is every single turn as well, his crit chance is ramping up to 10 times. So you can get up to like 30% more crit. And at least in the beta version of the build, crit seemed to be so valuable. Like crit and crit damage, like scaled up like crazy on characters. So yeah, that was what made him like just such a friggin' MVP. And the fact that if you didn't have opponents that would be removing the bleeds, again, these bleeds would be doing a lot of work, hitting very hard, stacking up. This man's crit chance is just going like crazy toward the end of matches as well. So yeah, I really had a bit of a soft spot for Jack in the first beta, and I thought he was pretty awesome. But then we have kind of the second line of A-tier characters. Again, the green I actually really liked. He was one of the first characters I actually got. And this guy for like auto farming and just kind of going through a lot of the stuff that you need to do day to day is like absolutely crazy, man. He just hits really hard. You've got like a lot of damage on his second one. He's got like a, what is it, ultimate that also like smacks everybody for massive damage as well. So yeah, this guy a little bit of a damage powerhouse, but seemed to be a little bit outshined by the SR version of at least in the beta. I think the combined attack as well, which made it maybe a little bit less valuable, was just single target instead of AoE. You can kind of see displayed. It will either be like a lineup or a cone. So you want to look for those cone ones ideally. But yeah, overall, solid. He does a lot of damage. And then we've also got Fagolian as well. I didn't get the opportunity to play around with Fagolian as much as I may have liked. But essentially, you wanted to crit opponents, apply burn, and then your various effects would play off the burn as well. And it seemed like Fagolian would be a lot better if, again, units like Lotus weren't so OP and chucking out like these like massive crit reductions. Because again, if you don't have anything like substantially scaling up the crit chance, then it's really hard to kind of get some of these effects as well. But also the thing about Fagolian is his ultimate only hits like a single target there. His combined attack's only a single target as well. And he just didn't seem like as good as using like Jack or any of the other control units when it came to PvP. Like generally, when I'd fight Fagolian, I wouldn't have like too much to worry about damage-wise. And I hope that changes, man, because Fagolian's like a really cool character, and I'd love to see him buffed up a bit more. And it's kind of the same with Yami as well. Like Yami was a really good character, and if you get Yami early on, again, he's going to feel great for farming. A lot of these characters are toward the top, but it's more about once you get deeper into the game and there's more specific stuff you need to do. Because like on a new account, man, you're just gonna feel like overpowered. Anybody that's like hitting some big numbers there. So yeah, Yami has a really nice slash on the combined attack, but aside from that, he's just a bit single target, really. He's got like a defense reduction, which again didn't seem like that impactful. He had a crit damage increase and then attacks the enemy target, but the problem is, yeah, he just doesn't have like a whole lot of crit, at least to the best of my memory. And again, gets like additional passive stuff when he lands a crit. Again, maybe there are ways with more endgame systems that are going to come in to kind of jack up that crit a little bit more. And again, maybe these characters are going to make a bit more sense, and we're going to see some more out of them. But yeah, we'll see how these ones develop a bit. But Yami, he feels good. There's some decent damage. The ultimate again is single target as well. But again, a lot of a lot of like early game farming, you kind of do want like as many like slashing attacks as you can, because again, most scenarios you are going to be fighting 3 opponents, and some scenarios you're going to be fighting 4 opponents as well if you're going into stuff like arena. So yeah, Yami, all right, hard hitter, but didn't really seem to like mega standout single target as well. There was nothing like that felt so insane that I was like, okay, if I'm getting single target, I need to 100% have a Yami. But he didn't feel like terrible either. And then we also have this Asta, which to be honest, I didn't really get the opportunity to play too much, but has a really nice passive, which kind of ramps up the attack every turn. This is kind of, what is it, the opposite of Yuno's one, the green version, which ramps up like magic attack every turn. So they're kind of like the inverse of each other there. So they do have a little bit of ramp up on that one. And if we go into Asta's skills, so yeah, he's just mainly single target, and single target units again. They never dealt enough in PvP to get the job done. quick enough and really burst down those control units. The control units are always way too strong. But again, if you're taking this guy into like PvE, if you're just doing farming stuff, then yeah, he can be really useful for that. You just got like a defense reduction. You do have the ability on his ultimate as well to remove barrier and invulnerability from enemy targets, and again, that can be useful against various annoying enemies. And also applies I think that's defense level down and attacks the enemy target if their stamina is above 50%. So yeah, Asta hits hard, ramps up a little bit nice, but again, doesn't have anything like that's absolutely breaking. We've already talked about this Mimosa. Real actually is a really, really interesting one. So Real, if you're getting attacked a lot, is crazy good. Like this guy deals so much damage, but again, the meta, at least on the first beta, was like don't get hit in PvP. It was like deny the opponent of their turn, stun them, freeze them, all of these abilities that I've shown you across these various characters. So this is why Real, once you get to a certain level in PvP, when people realize that, just really wasn't that good because he'd just be stunned. Or if you were playing a team that was like top meta, you'd have access to all of these stuns, all of this control. So yeah, you wouldn't really get like much off the counter attack value there. So yeah, he never really got the opportunity to shine, but also has a good AoE ultimate as well. And for a lot of farming stuff, I never found him that valuable because there are so many, if you're making a team of 4 characters, you can just create like, ones with just cleave abilities that just burst everybody down like really quickly. So you don't need to, use the counter attack and then wait for opponents to hit into you and then counter back. You just want a team that, with their 4 abilities is just going to nuke everything down before they have the opportunity to come back to you. So Real, if the abilities and kind of play style is fairly similar, then I don't think he's going to be that great. But if we see control heavily nerfed to the point that counters are significantly more effective, then Real actually could be amazing. He could be like going straight up to S tier. But I just found with everything that was available to kind of like shut him down in the beta, yeah, I really can't put him up there, man, because he really wasn't quite S tier, at least in my personal experience. And again, I think there are just slightly better options by comparison. But I think Real really had some interesting designs and really really good potential. And then kind of moving a little bit downward. So you got the basic Asta. Basic Asta, all of the basic characters, man, have some really cool abilities. I saw these two actually played a fair bit by people that got slightly less lucky with other units. Maybe instead of a Mars, they run these two. And these two have like a lot of annoying debuffs. I think this one, like summons clones as well, had some like really weird ability. But the silvers didn't seem too bad there. And then what is it? Oh, we've also got Nozel, and Nozel was like one of my first characters I got, along with Green, SSI Uno. And this character's a little bit weird because his like all his skill set is about like protecting the character, and he sacrifices kind of other effects and damage ramp up that better characters have just to kind of protect himself. So it's like use the special 2, and he like can't be targeted directly for 2 turns. But he's also like the lowest threat, so like he never gets targeted anyway because there are always like much worse characters in comparison. And when it comes to PvE as well, this can sometimes actually be a little bit of a detriment because opponents, unless you've got a taunt up, attack very randomly. But again, if you've got this up, and let's say you've just got this, like Nozel and alive, and Nozel uses Rain of Silver, Silver Spears here, then everybody's just going to pile into just burst him down quick. And a lot of the time, if you're struggling on a phase, you kind of want the damage split a little bit. So yeah, I just that seemed like really counterintuitive and really unhelpful. So I really don't like Nozel that much. His damage is all right. He's got a bit of poison as well, single target on the special one, and the ultimate is an AoE as well that does remove enemy targets barriers and reduces the cooldown of Silver Spears as well. But yeah, I thought he's okay. Again, if you get him early on, like he's not bad for some of the initial early game farming, but they're just like much better units. And also when he gets low, he also applies a barrier to himself. So again, it's kind of like they're trying to make a glass cannon, big damage unit, hides behind everybody else. really tricky to kill, but he just didn't have like the damage output or the threat to really kind of make sacrifices um, for defensive abilities on his like other offensive stuff. So yeah, that was a little bit weird. And then we got Sally. Sally was a weird one. I kind of thought she was all right the first day. The more I played around with her, though, the less kind of practical I kind of found her. So she's got this cool ability on there, the second one, which removes all friendly targets debuffs. So if you've got like, let's say like 4 bleeds on your Yami, then you would use this, and you can also target an enemy as well. It would remove those off Yami, and then she'd go and inject them into an opponent. The problem with this, again, was this is just like a single target one, and a lot of the stuff in the game's AoE. So this wouldn't really, it'd help out Yami, but then you'd have everybody else still getting nuked by like Jack's bleeds, for example. If Jack's tracking out his combined attack, or if somebody's doing that for Jack, he's getting like 8 bleeds. And if you get rid of 2 of them, it's like, okay, that's fine. But she kind of like takes up the healer slot, and Mimosa's so much more valuable. So yeah, she's all right. She's not like absolutely terrible, and I can see scenarios where she may be useful, but again, nothing like absolutely amazing there. And then we also had the ultimate as a fairly underwhelming single target ability, removes all buffs from the enemy target, applies a debuff to the enemy target, increasing the duration of all debuffs by 2 turns. Again, Mars does this, but he does it to like every single opponent. So yeah, he's just so much better in comparison. So yeah, the balancing is mega weird for some of this stuff. And yeah, the combined attack, you basically like power up your opponent. You power up your partner a little bit. You have a small chance to apply a crit percentage increase. Again, this combined with like Yami or Fogolian can be really good, because again, they gain various benefits from actually landing crits as well. So yeah, I am very interested to see if there's been a little bit of a retuning, because also a 20% chance as well. It's just it's not enough. You don't really want to gamble on like a 1 in 5 that you are going to get the buff that you need. But it also did have like a guaranteed little attack increase and also magic attack increase. So again, it's not too bad there. And again, you can actually upgrade it to 40% chance, but I still don't really think it changes the fact that you kind of, she takes up that healing spot or support spot. And at least on the first beta, again, they were just much more valuable characters with a lot more throughput and a lot more value in the match to just keep you alive, keep you going, having a good time. And then we have these two, which did all right damage. So we got Luck and also Magna there. And I don't think there was like anything overly special about them. They got some really cool abilities and animations. They didn't really have anything that was like super game breaking. Let me have a quick look just at the abilities, just to remind myself here. Like defense reduction, again, that's not really the biggest thing. Like attack reduction, magic attack reduction, and crit chance reduction. It was stupidly OP on the beta there. So yeah, there's like nothing. I don't think too special on Magna. He's just got like a lot of burn effects. So yeah, it's not too bad. Maybe when paired with somebody like Fogolian, I think they may have some interesting synergies. So there's a lot to experiment with there. And then we have Luck. So I forgot how to do the alphabet there. Fantastic. So yeah, Luck has a 35% chance to deal 100% additional damage to an enemy target, and deals 100% additional damage to a target with Paralyze. And then we've got Fury of the Gods. And this is it's kind of like a multi-target, but I think it's more of like a split right and left, as opposed to a frontal cleave here, and has a 50% chance to apply Paralyze. I think Paralyze was just a bit of shock damage, as opposed to like an actual stun effect. I don't think it was that. I think status effects of stun are kind of showing on everyone there. And has a 75% chance to apply defense reduction to an enemy target for 2 turns, and applies weapon enhancement level 3. So yeah, this isn't too bad for damage. Plus, it hits everybody on the opposing team as well. So there's some pretty good damage between this one and also Fury of the Lightning God. But again, nothing that I think gave him like really big damage ramp up or made him like a really big threat. And then next up we have Noelle, and Noelle's pretty cool, man. I think she's very much in the shadow of like how good both the Mimosas were, but she's got Sea Dragon's Lair as the ultimate special skill. So it applies a barrier equal to 25% of her maximum health to a friendly target, so all friendly targets actually, and also applies a defense increase as well. So the ultimate really, really good. She's also like a little bit of a hybrid tank, and also had a chance to cleave everybody, apply taunt to all enemy targets for 1 turn, and also go into a defense stance as well. So yeah, she was all right, but just did not have the level of throughput that Mimosas did, and applies a 10% barrier to all friendly targets with health below 20% for 2 turns upon using a skill on them. So yeah, this is something a little bit later in the fight, but sometimes you get to the point in arena where additional mechanics kick in, and yeah, you're dying very quickly or taking a lot more damage. So this can be often a little bit too late in comparison. But Noelle's is really cool. If you're looking for a healing and support unit on the team, like she's definitely, or at least in the beta, was a viable option there. And then finally we got Charlotte. Dude, Charlotte was ass, bro. She's like the first step up banner. And this character just did nothing, mate. Just did absolutely nothing. So she had like a cleave, but just didn't really deal too much damage on it. She's a small chance to gain like an additional turn as well, so it's not guaranteed. And then applies a 10% stamina increase for every enemy target alive if you did not gain an extra turn. So kind of, her whole thing is speed and getting turns a little bit faster. But again, that really is it. There's not like a mega thing that she was doing that was like reliable at all. So I found her like her damage was really, really underwhelming on the beta. It felt like the beta version of Charlotte that we got was like a very half-baked character. Because I summoned on the step-up banner, I got a few copies of her, and yeah, the incapacitate I don't believe like does much. I think it's like a little bit of like defense down or some sort of like vulnerability to getting crits or something. But again, as you can see, the chances are very, very low for this stuff to happen, man. So yeah, I hate characters that kind of just use their abilities and not really much happens. She also does have the passive of applying poison to enemy targets for 2 turns upon successfully landing a crit. But again, you've got like Jack's combined attack. That's like guaranteed. He doesn't even need to use it. A support character can use it next to him, and then he can follow up as well. And that applies like, 2 guaranteed bleeds, which I believe hit significantly harder than the poison on like everyone. So plus while he's also like mega ramping up crit on top of that. So Charlotte, I found really underwhelming. I hope she gets like a significant rework or buff before the launch of this game. Because yeah, she was probably like the character I played that I was just like I was most disappointed with, and that really like says a lot when I played with all sorts of different characters, and most of them actually impressed me, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, I can see how if I maybe change this setup or added a thing like how we can get to this level, or if crit was so much higher, maybe Fugolium would just be an absolute beast because we would be burning everybody and just ramping up like crazy. So yeah, those are my thoughts pre-release on who I believe are going to be some of the best characters. If the build is similar to the beta version, again, it might launch in 48 hours time. All of this stuff might be mega irrelevant. We might have an entirely new game in front of us. So yeah, I'm just really interested to see what happens. But foundationally, I'm going to be looking out for a Jack early on and Mars early on. A lot of the characters kind of in A to S tier are going to be my targeted and most desired, maybe from early summons and reroll banners. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully my rambling on today was useful. If it was, please do smash that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much for watching. Take care, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.
You are not subscribed to the whale sin of spending? Who decided that? Subscribe now, or enjoy the bitter taste of